Hello and welcome to another video. I have the trailer with me. So you guys already know, trailer comes along, that means something isn't 100% right. And man, this is a slightly risky purchase. I will kind of explain in more detail, but I am heading to a gentleman's house to pick up a Mini Cooper. I have seen the Mini Cooper. It is not in the best shape, but I'll explain why I wanted to buy it or how I even found it. But just wanted to start the video. Welcome to another adventure. I think this one will definitely be a project. I have a slight, almost like emotional attachment to it, to this purchase. And again, I'll go into detail. But welcome. We are probably 30 minutes away from Terry's house, and we're gonna pick up a Mini Cooper. Here we are, and there's the Mini. Probably have to turn around, but here's a quick sneak peek for you guys.
Moments later.
Well, got the Mini Cooper loaded, and then got in the GMC, tried to start it, and the battery's dead. And Terry tried to help us out, jump box, but it was kind of low on charge. We tried jumper cables from his Jeep, but it wasn't enough juice. So unfortunately, me and this little one are stuck, man. This Mini Cooper purchase is already off to not the best start, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about why I purchased it. So how I actually met Terry. I purchased a motorcycle from him, which I didn't take videos of. And then he had a few cars that he wanted to sell. One of those was this Mini Cooper that you guys see or saw. I'll show you more detailed view, I guess, once I get out of this messy, sticky situation. But so he bought it. It was a repo. He bought it at an auction. He said the interior was a little rough. He replaced the seats, replaced the brake pads on it, rear ones. Fronts were new, and put a new battery in it. And he wants to sell it. So I obviously like Mini Coopers. I like to drive them. And I haven't had one in a green color. And what was attractive about this Mini to me is that it is fully loaded, meaning heated seats, piano roof. It is a British green, has the bi-xenon headlights. It's the S Supercharged model. Has a navigation screen. Very nice example. Unfortunately, it's a little rough. There's clear coat peeling on the hood. There's some paint issues on the rear. So body is straight as far as I know, but it's not cosmetically necessarily appealing. So that's the first aspect of the project. Second aspect of the project, when he replaced the seats, he put seats from a newer Mini, and I believe that caused the airbag light to come on. And he says the driver's seat buckle doesn't go in, so it's a totally different system. So I might potentially need to get different seats, the correct ones, or maybe I will be able to get away with new like seat belts and retractors. But that's our second issue that we'll have to tackle. But first and foremost, the most important issue, it has a check engine light on, and there's 12 codes, 12 different codes. One of them is for a misfire, one is for like oxygen sensor, handful of other sensors. I mean, honestly, there's a lot. This is probably the most individual codes I have seen in any vehicle, not even a Mini Cooper. You know, typically you could say, you know, random misfire code, and then they'll have like cylinder 1, 2, 3, whatever. You know, it's all isolated to one area. This, from my research, it's all over the place. It's all over the car, which would probably explain why it was a repo. It was probably having issues and they just stopped. Now, it could be something simple because it does have aftermarket parts on it, exhaust, some kind of engine work at the very least, air intake. The supercharger is pretty darn loud. I don't know if it's because of the aftermarket air intake, or it has an upgraded supercharger, maybe smaller pulley. I don't know. I honestly, I didn't really look at it at all. So those could be related to that. I have no idea. But at the very least, it's a project. It's a pretty big project, I would say, because after I fix the mechanical, I have to make sure there's no airbag light or any other faults. And then I have to finish off with the exterior. And exterior, as of right now, I will see if I could find someone, because it seems like it's just the clear coat peeling. See if I could get someone to, you know, do a new clear coat on the hood. If not, I think repainting it is not an option. I'll just most likely see if I could find a donor hood. Yeah, there's a lot. Is this a mistake? I hope not. But this is definitely a riskier purchase than I normally do. And where the emotional attachment comes from. For many, many years, I wanted to buy a Mini Cooper and almost like build it for myself. Suspension, wheels, tires, upgrade the engine, exhaust, all of that. And this, to me, was to some extent like a process already started. It's not there by any means. And I don't think I'm ready for a full build. But I figured if I could get something, get it done or like completed to where I want it to be, enjoy it for a little bit, and then sell it and hopefully make money, I will be happy. So that's where I am with this Mini Cooper. I am excited for it. Obviously, like, if this was a really, really dumb deal, I wouldn't be here. I purchased the Mini for $2,300 or $2,400. I have no idea what year it is. It's on the title in the back, but it does hold a clean title with 150,000 miles roughly. So subjectively or objectively, it ain't like a great deal, but here we are. I did drive it up and down the street here in front of Terry's house. Seems like it shifts fine. It makes power. But we'll see, you know, to what extent the issues are. And the other thing is, I think it has an oil leak. There's a lot wrong with this Mini Cooper. So I am waiting for my father to show up with 2 of my jump boxes. Hopefully get this big behemoth started and make my way home.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Dad came through, got 2 jump boxes, got the GMC started. We are making our way home, but there's probably going to be traffic at this point.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Mini has been unloaded. The only thing I checked was oil level. It is within level. Didn't drive it far. I have stuff to do inside the house. I mean, honestly, it does have potential. It has a lot of potential, but there's obviously a lot of pain spots. And we lost this on the freeway, which unfortunately I lost on my last Mini Cooper that I had after going through the car wash, and they never found it. And I know that's a $60 trim. So here we go. Expenses already starting to add up. Man, I'm almost having like buyer's remorse, if that makes sense. I'm thinking, okay, could I just sat on the $2,400, did something else with it, because obviously this, you know, $2,400 purchase, but then I have to continuously, not continuously, but put more money into it in order to pull out a return. Anyways, we'll see. I'll once I'm done with stuff inside, if it's not too late, then I'll come out, maybe drive it, clear the codes, see how it actually feels, and see what codes come back and start going from there. Or do that another day, at least so that we have some kind of game plan.
1 week later.
This Mini has been parked for probably a week. I did look at it briefly. The oil light issue, from what I read, from what I was able to find out, it is most likely caused to oil pressure sensor. And I got a new oil pressure sensor. I started to poke around back there, and honestly, you can't just replace it. It is unbelievably difficult, because here's the firewall. Well, not firewall, but heat shield going to the headers and then down to the cat. Here's the oil filter, and then right here is the oil pressure sensor. And trying to remove it, it hits this metal part right here and it does not come out. So in order to get it out, I have to remove the heat shield, which obviously right now I'm not going to do, but I did clean it up. I did take it off. I did put it back on. I started the car, no more oil light, but that doesn't mean it's not going to come back. If I got away by just cleaning it off and whatnot without actually replacing it, that's great. But the engine was not running the best, and I got a check engine light. And obviously I haven't driven it, it hasn't moved off the spot. It maybe ran for a minute, 2 minutes. So it's an active issue. The code was, I don't remember what the code was, but the replacement part is right here. It's another sensor. And as far as I know, it is located somewhere in here. I looked it up when I first ordered it, when I was first diagnosing the issue, but it's been like half a week. So I'll try to take this out, try to find the sensor. I remembered, it is a map sensor that essentially controls airflow, I guess. So which would kind of make sense why it almost chokes up at idle, but we'll see. I knew this car was a project. I knew I wasn't going to get it done in a week. So I will slowly be working on it when I have extra time, which unfortunately these days is not much, but I bought it as a project. I knew it wasn't going to be a quick flip, if that makes sense. So I'm taking my time with it. I'm not pushing myself. I got other stuff that is a higher priority. So let me figure out where the sensor goes, get it replaced, and then we could start it and see how she sounds. So I just found out something. It has two map sensors. First one is right here, obviously very easy to spot. And second one is right here under these wires. I unfortunately only ordered one. So since my code, it's a P1109 code, if I remember correctly, and the code description says intake manifold. This is closer to the supercharger, and I would argue that this one is probably closer to the intake manifold. So I'll just replace one for now. Obviously I'll get another sensor and replace this one. Looks like they're both very easy to get to, but I'll replace this one and see how she runs, how she sounds, and go from there.
A few minutes later,
I have not cleared the code since last time, and I'm hoping it'll just be better than that. See, it is way not happy. I'm going to clear the codes and try again. My kid had me change the hat. You know what's crazy? When I test drove it before I bought it, it did not run like this. So it's like, almost feels like it's dying in my driveway. So there we go. So before compressor and intake manifold. So we have two of them. So now we have two. So now I for sure need to replace the other one or look into it further, but I will obviously replace the other one. But let me clear it and just see if it'll run a little bit better with no codes at all. I'm not expecting it to run better, but we'll see. But look at that. It is running better, a lot better. So I think I'll let it run for a few, nope, there it goes. Now it's starting to choke up again. Yeah, there's no point of putting this car through misery. I'll order another sensor, get it replaced, and then hopefully then we could take it on our first drive. If oil light doesn't come back, then I will start driving it, see what other codes come back. But again, this is a slow project for me. I'm not in a rush by any means, but I am excited for it.
Much later.
I feel like you guys will see all 4 seasons by the time I'm done with this Mini. But it has been parked at my house, and I have been messing around with it when I have time, and slowly plug and play. I'm not in a rush to get it done. I have other projects that are a higher priority, but this is the one I'll be doing today. A little bit. Where's, oh, forgot. It's gonna be on this side. There we go. I don't know if we want snow right there on the metal computer or on the electrical computer. Nope. Maybe not smart of me, but also not a smart design on Mini's end. But what I will be doing today is actually replacing all the spark plugs. I pulled them off video, and basically I had a cylinder 4 misfire, but then they said there's multiple misfires. But I pulled spark plug 4, put it here on cylinder 1, and again it was misfiring. The other thing, I've been doing research for the really like weird idle. There is a little thing here. There we go. This one. I don't know if you guys will see it. There we go. With my finger. And what I was told is it shouldn't, or it should or shouldn't have resistance, but this seems almost a little too easy. But once I replace the plugs, I'll actually start the car. Very difficult to see in there. And I will push on that thing and see if the idle changes or if it gets any better. Basically, as far as I understood, that part builds pressure and okay, it's kind of hard to explain, but anyways, it builds pressure, and if the valve, the little spring, is too weak or too cracked, then it doesn't properly build pressure, and the engine doesn't know when to release pressure or when to build it, and that causes erratic idle. Thankfully, that part is not very expensive. It's like a $30, $40 part, and I'll be able to replace it. If I could get rid of the misfire issues today and maybe narrow it down to that part, honestly, I think the only thing I'll have left to do is the oil light if it comes back on, and that could be, I mean, I might have to just replace that sensor, which obviously I have, but once I know it mechanically runs great and I could take it from point A to point B, then I'll do an oil change and we'll figure out the cosmetic stuff and interior pieces, but mechanical engine stuff has been first priority.
A few minutes later.
4 plugs out, and honestly they don't look too bad. They just look very old and burnt, and they were extremely difficult to actually get out. Like, they were overly tight in there. But NGK is what I am putting back in there. Always so difficult doing things with one hand, but halfway there. Okie doke, let's... I'm surprised the battery's still good. Except, you don't need to accept nothing. See, it seems like it runs fine, but then sometimes it'll start to choke up. And I still feel a very minor misfire. See? That's what it does. So I just pushed it in. And so far, it's not doing that anymore. Okay, let me take my hand out. And it's already starting to run run not as well. Yeah, look, as soon as I push it in, you could hear it. It runs better. See, removed it. Push it in. Removed it. Okay. I do believe I am getting closer and closer. Now I could put in gear, but I am genuinely surprised that this car keeps starting because it's been sitting here for like a month. But look at that, we're making a little progress. Spark plugs replaced. I might need to look into the ignition wires if it'll still throw a misfire. But honestly, it could be misfiring because of the other part I was just putting my finger on. And if that is the case, I still don't think I replaced spark plugs for nothing because you guys saw them. Yeah, I'm not upset at that. So, need to go order more parts. But we are making progress. And once it's done, I am actually very much excited to drive this thing. See how it actually feels and how much power this thing actually makes.
Much later.
I have been slacking with the Mini Cooper, but I told you guys that when I bought it, I had no intention of doing it fast. This is like a project, a side project, if you will. It's been sitting here. I've had this car for a little while now, but I'm slowly buying parts, slowly tinkering with it. I've had it on a trickle charger for over 24 hours because I've had this car for over a month now, maybe a month and a half, and I haven't driven it. So I'm surprised that it started every single time. I haven't needed to jump it at all. So either it has a new battery or a very nice battery. But the fact that it's been on a trickle charger for over 24 hours shows me that it's been, or the battery was pretty darn low. But I did get the new part somewhere in my garage is the new valve. And I think my game plan, the easiest approach, so I believe the valve is, yeah, right here. I feel it with my finger. So I think I'll take off this bracket and then this hose should pull up. That should give me enough clearance to kind of get in there because it's nothing big and just 3 bolts or screws is what's holding it in place. And I'm hoping that it will actually run straight after that. But after that, I will take it around the block, get a feel for it. And if that oil light comes on, it's going straight to my mechanic. I'm going to have him look at it, look through it, figure out the mechanical parts. But we are definitely making progress, I would say. Slow progress, but progress. Well, that didn't take long to realize that this is going to be a little bit painful. So I have to do these bolts. But how do I get underneath? There's like literally no room. So I might have to take off the intercooler. I think that's what it's called, intercooler from up here. See 1, 2, and there's another bolt, and then maybe I would be able to lift it up. Maybe undo it on this side too. And even then, that probably wouldn't give me much room, but at least something. I don't know. I could try to do it this way, but man, getting to the one back here is going to be extremely difficult with this whole assembly. I've moved the Mini to the side of the street, and I got everything pulled apart. Took off this supercharger horn, and then inside I already see an issue. From the top, when I was taking it off, I saw this right here, which honestly doesn't look too bad, but I was like, hey, maybe I should replace it. But this right here will definitely suck up air. If you guys could see that, my finger literally goes in here. So I don't know who was here prior, what were they doing, but I'll have to fix that. It's both, well, it's held on by 2 clamps like you guys see right here. So I have to put that to the side. And once I take it off a little bit better, well, actually I need this part because this is the valve that we are replacing. Man, I feel like I'm struggling over here with just random stuff. Let's do that. I'll be better. But I do want to make sure that the gasket is fine with no issues. But this is the valve, and when I would push in on it, the car started to run a lot better. And then here is the new one, and this one definitely has more resistance than this. This is actually pretty easy. I don't know what happens on the inside of it, but get to clean everything up, remove it, reinstall it, and hope for the best. I would be just about ready to start putting everything back together, but look at that. I can't put it back together like this because it is completely ripped. So have to leave it like this, more or less somewhat taken apart. But the old valve is out, kind of caked. And you see even this rubber seal right here, just a tiny bit. But if it's sucking air through, obviously it will affect the idle, which we had issues with. But yeah, next thing on my list is to see how quickly I could get this in, because honestly guys, I'm ready to kind of hurry along this process because I've been taking it very easy on this car.
Several days later.
I think I am ready for moment of truth. I got everything put back together. So I bought a kit of these, although obviously I didn't replace this one. It's OEM. I did replace that one, and it's actually covered by this cover, which I did not realize. But everything has been put back together. Ready to face the music. Still have that check engine light. I won't clear anything just now, but the engine, I think for the first time, sounds very happy and healthy. I hear the belt chirping just a little bit, but look, and there's no more vibration, no more misfire. So I will let it run for a few minutes, make sure it continues to run fine, and I will put away my tools. But look, even now it started. There's no blue smoke from it, but obviously it had issues. So this is the old valve. So this is the other hose for the other side. Just an aftermarket silicone hose. And yeah, it seems like it's happy for the first time. I'm ready to go on my first drive. Put my plate in there and you could barely see it. I did not realize how dark that glass is. Okay, whatever, we'll wing it. We're not gonna go far. But I would like to go to the gas station, put some fuel in this thing, because even when I picked it up, it had almost no fuel. And then running it back and forth, it definitely kind of used it up. Unfortunately, my GoPro died, and I absolutely dislike recording in a manual car because holding the camera and shifting it doesn't work. And since the guy replaced the seats, the guy who I bought it from, my seatbelt doesn't buckle into this buckle. And I have an airbag light on, TPMS light, but I hear the exhaust, it has really like gentle pops and crackles, which I really like, and hopefully at some point I will get you guys some sound clips. But so far, we are good. The only thing I have to keep in mind is that oil pressure light that I saw prior. But I'm thinking it could have been caused by all the other issues where the engine was just, it didn't know what to do, how to do it. Because right now I cleared the check engine light. There's absolutely no lights on the dash aside from those. and we need fuel. So off to the gas station, and hopefully I make it there and back with no issues. Didn't make it to the gas station, and I'm going to put $30 in it. But as soon as I was pulling up, the oil light turned on. And honestly, I would hate to do all of this work, get this far, and then there's no oil pressure and mess up the engine. This is a sticky situation. I am not excited for it. Almost done filling up, and I guess we'll see how it goes. Wish me luck. Yeah, and we have an engine light already. Okay, hope I make it back home. Since I'm just chilling on a red light, I'm going to kill the engine. Obviously trying to be very careful, and then trying to time it just right, but car isn't even running. Trying to take all the precautionary measures that I can. Started it just now and we have no issues, so thinking, I mean, what if it's like old oil and it was dirty? But we'll get back to the house and check what the check engine light is for. But yeah, so far, but I don't like these red lights though.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Killed the car, no power steering. But we have made it back. Let's put it into gear. Connect my scan tool and see what we got. Pressure sensor, intake manifold before compressor, input too high or input too low with engine stop. Didn't I replace both of these sensors? Why is this still coming up? Is it a wiring issue at this point? Okay, so that's the only code, but obviously I didn't drive it far. So I think the next step for me is to actually take it to my mechanic, which obviously it was planned at some point so that he could take a full look at it. And honestly, I was hoping to possibly drive it to him, but it looks like I'll have to trailer it, which is fine. But I hope, and I don't think I damaged the engine with my driving, but now it has fuel. It actually shifts really well. The exhaust is very like subtle and has gentle pops, but when you give it gas, anything over 2,000 RPM, man, that supercharger whine is just, I like personally, that's my thing. I love a supercharger whine. So I know this car will be extremely exciting to drive, but mechanically it has to be sorted before I push it, enjoy it, do more or less anything with it. And then obviously once mechanically I know it's sound, I unfortunately still have to figure out this whole interior stuff. And I'm hoping that I could put the seats that actually belong in this Mini. I hope I can find them for a fair price and then sell these is what I would ideally like to do. And then obviously outside we have imperfections too with the paint.
Several days later.
Well, my mechanic is busy with a whole bunch of other stuff, other cars that I gave him. So honestly, I kind of figured let me do it myself if I could figure it out. And honestly, it is not that terrible. So I already put the new sensor in. What I had to do was actually take off this heat shield, 13 millimeter bolts, and then a 10 millimeter bolt for this other one that you guys see the light on. Let me put my phone away. This one right here, and the bolt is right here. And that gave me enough clearance to actually move it out of the way, get the connector off, and get my tools in to take out the oil pressure sensor. Here is the old one, and obviously it is old. So the other thing is, see, there's oil in here and oil on the connector when I took it apart. So I'm almost thinking that it's so old that it started to seep oil through here, and then it got the connector wet, there was no contact, and that's why I would have an intermediate oil pressure light. So hopefully this will fix it. I cleaned it up with some brake cleaner, wiped it down. Hopefully everything is good, so I'll put it back together and I'm hoping everything will be fine, but I am still a little bit sketched out about this sensor and then one somewhere around here that I replaced earlier on, because we have a check engine light for that, and that ain't good. I don't like that. I believe everything has been put back together correctly. So this is the oil, because obviously it leaked out when I took out the sensor, so that actually doesn't look too bad. Not bad at all. So I might hold off on an oil change for now, and then if anything, focus on cosmetic stuff. But the other thing, this tire had a nail in it, so I patched that up. So we could close all of this up, and I could maybe go on my first drive around the neighborhood without the oil light coming on, and then actually maybe push it a little bit. And as I was patching up that tire, I went around every single one to add some air to them. They were like 1 psi lower, so they were totally fine. But I noticed that these are Continental Extreme Contact tires, so this thing will actually be a ton of fun around corners once I could mechanically dial it in, maybe take it up some twisties. And we have a whole bunch of them here in the Pacific Northwest. Seems like I have already come such a long way with this car. Let it warm up and we could head out. So far, we are okay. Just got rid of the TPMS light, but obviously we still have the airbag and seatbelt. This is how I'm driving because, again, I remember that the seatbelt buckle doesn't work. Brake light is on because my seatbelt's pulling on it, so that's not an issue. Well, let's see if we could get some pops and crackles out of this thing. Oh no, we are very much bogging down. So going through gears, we were way okay, and just now as I try to push it a little bit, look at that, it just falls flat on its face. Now we're going, but that's not good, nor is it normal. So good news is we don't have the oil pressure light anymore. Bad news, it definitely bogs down. I tried second, third gear, same thing. But let's get a quick exhaust note. And see, right now, absolutely no issue getting up. But when it's engaged in gear, that's when it has a hard time with it. So I know I'm giving you guys bits and pieces of this car, but I am slowly chugging through it. On to other stuff that I had planned today, but at least something is progressing.
Several days later.
I don't mind projects. I typically don't run away from them. But when I bought this car, I feel like I had more time to work on it, and unfortunately it was a somewhat emotional purchase. Like I said before, I've wanted to buy a Mini Cooper and kind of build it myself the way I like it. And this one was already kind of, you know, on the way there for that. That's why I purchased it. Plus, British green really is a rare color for these cars. I've never owned one. Typically, you know, blue, gray, those run-of-the-mill colors for the Mini, but British green is fairly rare. Anyways, I drove this car to the lot and it still bogs down. And on the freeway, it went into limp mode. I made it to the lot. I killed the car because it's a manual, it's very easy. Restarted it, it was fine, and more or less a few times kind of limped to the lot. Parked it here, started to do research, and a lot of things were pointing to a bad throttle intake. No, I don't even remember what it's called. Very, very long morning, but this is what I will be replacing now, and hopefully this will throttle body. That's what it is. Hopefully this will fix my issue. Obviously the car has higher miles, so you know the common parts that fail, should be failing, and I'm assuming they are still original. So we have a nice aftermarket part here, obviously brand new part. And unfortunately, when I was, digging around in this area replacing the rubber clamp hose here, I did take the throttle body out. So I'll have to some extent repeat the job. Thankfully it's not super difficult, but probably take me half an hour or so to take it apart, replace it, put it back together, and then we'll go on another drive and see if that fixes our bogging down issue at harder throttle. Here's our old one. Obviously, compared to that, not the same. At least the gasket looks fine, but definitely corroded elements and whatnot. But that seems fine. They feel very similar, but who knows? Okay, here we go. Let's see how well it'll do. We still have that check engine light, which comes out for that sensor, and I believe I still have those sensors. But I'm gonna take it a little bit easy down the street, and then I'll try to push it once it kind of warms up and see if we fixed another issue and have to go far. So watch. This isn't even going hard on it. Well, it's actually doing fine now. So maybe I needed a moment for the computer to adjust. Let me try it again. It definitely does it. See that? It's flat on his face. This is me, good throttle, nothing. Okay, there we go. Let go of the gas. See, now it goes. But initially from about 2,000 RPM. Let's try it again. Slow down. See? It's choking. Look, this is me just applying the same amount of throttle. I'm not adding more, I'm not adding less. This is all the car. So now it seems like it went through. Again, this will be, I don't know, 5% throttle, so that was fine. But then it gets caught up. And those pops and crackles are nice, though. See, this is why more or less it was a slight emotional. Sounded good when I drove it. It actually seemed to run more or less okay when I drove it. My only thing was obviously check engine light, and then it had the oil pressure light, which is why I decided to trailer it and not actually drive it. And here we are. But here's what I'm thinking. I originally did want to take it to my mechanic so that he can take a look at it, regardless, even after I would have finished, make sure that it's all sorted mechanically before I hand it off to the next owner. But I think it's probably time to take it to him sooner. Have him go through the car before I kind of plug and play back and forth. And obviously there's still a whole bunch of stuff to do with this car, like interior and whatnot. And I definitely want to take a few maybe more fun videos. So it's still a project. I don't know when I'll do a part 2 video, but maybe when this gets posted and one of you guys sees it, maybe you'll be able to help me. I know there's a big R53 following. There's a lot of guys with immense knowledge on these cars that have probably experienced, what you guys just saw. So I want to say thank you for watching, and I want to ask for your help. If you could guide me in a better direction on this Mini Cooper so that I could bring it back to its previous glory, and so that I could enjoy and hand it off to the next owner so that they could enjoy it, so that it's sorted mechanically, because honestly, these cars are a ton of fun to drive. I immensely enjoy sitting behind the wheel of one of these. But thank you for watching. Consider subscribing. I will see you guys in another video.